after quite a long time, finally, we've actually got some movement on the North Felixstowe Garden Neighbourhood scheme, which was discussed a long time ago. It was a part of the 2019 local plan for our area. It gives a whole stack of stuff, you know, sort of within the plan itself. And this Saturday, the 2nd of February, between the hours of 10 and 2, we had a number of presentations from the team that have been put together to deliver the master plan across the geographical area that is north of Walton. And it is 3 landowners, Trinity College, Adams the farmer, and East Suffolk District Council. The land is in their ownership, and it's about even areas between the 3 of them. The presentation at the ORWELL Hotel was led off by James Goldberg, who has been the gentleman who's been recruited by East Suffolk District Council to lead the whole project. There were presentations on sport and leisure, on education, on health, on the design of the scheme, and on public engagement. And what we propose to do over the next several days is put together each of those particular issues, the presentation itself, and the questions that arose from the over 300 people who were at the ORWELL Hotel to actually look at this very important, once in a lifetime actually, opportunity, because as we're seeing in the Trimleys and elsewhere, an awful lot of building is going on that doesn't really seem to be related to the community that it's coming into, or providing and meeting the needs that we would expect into the 21st century. So have a listen to James Goldberg introducing the whole scheme at the ORWELL Hotel at 11:30, a bit delayed actually because there's a problem with microphones and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure they'll improve as time goes by, but have a listen, and questions will be done. So we intend to do a number of clips over the next week or so, dealing with sport, dealing with health, dealing with education, dealing with the site itself, and dealing with public engagement. So hopefully you'll find it informative. Here we go. Bye for now.
And again, welcome. It's great to see so many of you here. My name's James Goldberg. I'm leading the development of the North Felixstowe Garden Neighbourhood Master Plan. Today is the first public event to launch our engagement programme, and the focus of the day is really about raising awareness about what's happening and the project and how everyone can get involved going forward for the next 6 months. This is slightly different perhaps to other planning events you've attended, where they may have a very detailed master plan that people are expected to comment on. This is a very early stage consultation, and we're looking at developing the master plan in dialogue with the local community, the planning authority, and the adjoining owners.
First time.
So we know there's a lot of concern locally around the master plan, both on the impact on the town and also around the leisure strategy. We have a range of speakers here today to hopefully talk to you directly from different departments and organisations we're working with as part of this master plan. So the format for the presentations today are going to be short, sharp presentations. Please all hold on to your questions. We're going to break out after the presentations, and you can come and find us all, and we can have some conversations about your concerns. So as I said, we've got a range of speakers today. We're not going to take questions.
No. Are we going to take questions from the whole audience to the speakers at the end of the meeting, so we all know what our concerns are collectively, or else we're, you know...
We're kindly going to ask everybody to hold their questions, and we can come and have conversations around the boards after.
No. Questions to the whole bit.
Okay. If that's what everybody wants, we can have a short time for questions at the very end.
You're right.
Okay, this is rapidly evolving the programme for today. So please, can everybody try and keep quiet for the presentations, because we're all here to let you know what we've been doing and working on, and be grateful if people could take the consideration to listen. So I'm going to do a brief introduction of the project. We then have my colleague Tim Snook, who's going to talk about the leisure strategy for Felixstowe. Following him, we have Sebastian Birchall from LDA Design, who's going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing so far. We've then got Kelly Smith from Suffolk County Education Team, who's going to talk a little bit about education provision in the peninsula. Following her, Maddie Baker-Woods from the ICB is going to talk a little bit about healthcare. And finally, Tom Shopland from LDA Design is going to be explaining a little bit more about how everybody can get involved in the programme going forward. So please ask you all to make sure you take time to look at all the boards next door. We also have, in particular, a little section where we're asking for feedback on what this project should be called. North Felixstowe Garden Neighbourhood is not a particularly catchy name, nor does it really resonate with any of the local communities. So we're looking to change that going forward. We're really interested to get your views. There's also some of our colleagues from our leisure team who are looking to hear your views about play provision within Felixstowe. So this is a plan of the allocation. It's defined in the 2020 local plan as a leisure-led master plan. And it might be worth just touching on what the local plan is. It's essentially a big document that gets updated at statutory periods that the local planning authority sets out where development should and shouldn't happen. And it includes topics such as housing, employment, and various others. So the scale of the site is obviously, I understand, a big concern. It's a strategic location as you come in off the A14, off Candlett Road. It's also needs to moderate between the town to the south and the national landscape beyond. So this plan again shows the scale of it, but in the context of Felixstowe. And a lot of people, local people I know, consider it an out-of-town location. But as you can hopefully see from the concentric rings on the plan, it is 10, 15, 20-minute walk from the train station. So if we do our jobs correctly, we think it is an inherently sustainable development site. It's worth saying that the master plan is intimately related to the leisure strategy for Felixstowe. And this goes back to some feasibility work and consultation that was done back in 2018. My colleague Tim will be picking this up in more detail. Essentially, it set out the strategy to replace both the existing centres with one new centre on the North Felixstowe site. And the local plan responded to this by ensuring that as part of the master plan, we need to find a site for the new leisure centre. In September 22, East Suffolk Council Cabinet approved the decision to proceed with whole site master planning. And that's important because we are not the only landowner. So hopefully people can see here in this aerial view that East Suffolk Council own about a third of the remaining area to be developed. It also highlights that the central site in the middle is currently being developed by Persimmon, known as Trelawney Place. This essentially came out ahead of the master plan allocation. A lot of people think it's the first phase of what we're doing. It actually predates the master plan work. And obviously we're now engaging with them to make sure what happens around it is going to be as successful as possible. So our role in this project as East Suffolk Council landowners, as I mentioned, is separate to the local planning authority. And our role on this project is really to bring the other landowners together around a table on a scheme that's beneficial to both. And it's worth noting that each have its own set of values and considerations, and there's going to be compromise. I can't stand here and promise that we're going to be able to do everything that you guys would like us to, but I can promise that we'll listen and we'll hopefully feed back to you if we can't implement something, why the reasons for that are. This area also highlights the current land use on the site. I'm very aware that the local community has great concerns over both the Abbey Grove woodlands and the playing fields. These are publicly accessible open space at the moment, and we're looking to retain and enhance those as much as possible through the master plan. The rest of the site is in agricultural use, and we understand that there's a responsibility with developing that as well. So what's in the allocation for the master plan? Some elements in the allocation are quite well defined, such as the leisure centre location, housing. The allocation calls for about 2,000 homes, 500 or so of which are already being built out on Trelawney Place. The open place provision is attached to those homes, but some elements are less prescriptive, such as employment space and community infrastructure. Although we do know that there's going to be another primary school coming forward as part of the master plan, in addition to the one that's coming forward on Trelawney Place, and we have our colleagues from Suffolk County Council to talk to you a bit more about that. But we're really keen that we, as much as possible through the next 6 months working with the local community, try and highlight or amplify the local vision for this site. So what does a master plan-led approach mean, and why are we doing this? So you might ask, if the leisure centre is such a priority, why didn't we buy a site to put the leisure centre on? Well, we have had negotiations and meetings to try and negotiate the sale of land for that. They were not successful. The master plan approach is actually enshrined in the local plan, and the reason for this is master planning is about making connections between landscape, building, social settings and their surroundings. It provides a conceptual framework which will hopefully guide the sustainable development of the site in the future. It enables thinking that is simply not possible on a site-by-site basis, and that's why it's enshrined in the local plan and what we're trying to do over the next 6 to 9 months. So what have I been doing on this project since I joined Council about just over a year ago now? We've been working to make sure that we've got governance set up within East Suffolk Council for decision making. We've procured and mobilised a really fantastic design team to work on this project. This was something that was procured through open public procurement back in March, and I'm really grateful that we've got such a wonderful team working on this. Hopefully you're going to meet some of them in a moment. We've also been working, as I said, with the adjoining landowners to make sure that this master plan is something that's deliverable and valuable to each in their own way. We've been establishing our public engagement program, which this is, as I mentioned, is the launch. There's going to be a range of different ways to get involved going forward. And finally, we've been working with the leisure team, you're going to hear from Tim in a minute, to make sure that the development of the leisure centre is sort of twin-tracked with the master plan process. So at the moment, that is what we're looking to bring forward in what you would call the first phase of the master plan. Quick note on programme for you all here. So we're sort of at the end of January, beginning of Feb is our first public launch. And as I mentioned, we haven't done a huge amount of work to develop a detailed master plan at this point. We're still talking aspirations and concepts. And I think that's really important to highlight, that we really want to hear from you all how you can input into the project. Over the next 6 months, we're going to be developing the master plan into a detailed proposal. And we're going to have a second event at the end of the summer where you can all feed back to us if we've done a decent job or not, capturing all of your concerns.
Could I just widen the debate somewhat? Because for the last over a year, I've been arguing with the ICB about exactly what will be happening to the Felixstowe Peninsula with regards to the growth of population. I've had a big argument with our own district council as to the number of houses that in total will be built over Plan 1 and 2. And the actual figure that I have is 4,196. I think we've now agreed, have we not, Maddie, that the district council is accepting something like 3,900 and whatever, but the real increase in population is in excess of 10,000 people, many of which will have cars. You are taking the bypass to be your service road into this development. How are you actually going to ensure the rest of us actually will have relatively clean air, less traffic, by a road that actually can serve the town without going through the residential areas? Thank you.
So I can't really speak specifics on detail at the moment because it's simply the design work hasn't been done. All I can tell you is that we have a team of really great professionals helping us, and we'll be working with Suffolk County Council Highways to make sure that going forward there are no issues with either traffic or air quality. Gentleman over here. Thank you.
I think it's good afternoon by now. Good afternoon, everybody. Those of you that don't know me, my name's Deacon, and I have to say that I've spent the last 22 years of my life trying to protect the countryside around our town, which I think is fantastic. That said, we are where we are, and I've always admitted that we do need housing. We need housing that our young families can afford, principally, not the sort of housing that we're hearing about right now.
No.
I have many, many concerns, but what really pleases me this afternoon, or this morning earlier, was James mentioning that there would be consultation. What I will say is that, James, please, when you consult, listen to the replies that you get, not like the previous administration, which simply didn't. And we are where we are. I do have many problems. Flooding in Walton has already been mentioned. It really is a big issue. And for anybody that doesn't live in an area where their house gets flooded, you cannot believe the misery that it causes, or even the threat of that. If it doesn't actually happen, the threat of it is appalling. So I think we've got to look very, very careful at that. And then I have also concerns about the integrity of Golfer Road as it is, which I still prefer to call Golfer Lane, because that's just what it is. And that has to be protected. It's a quiet lane. It's designated a quiet lane. It's already become increasingly busy because of the extra housing there is. So please let us protect that during the course of this development or proposed development. Do please, all of you, contact the District Council with your fears, your worries, or your local councillor. I, for one, will make sure that anybody that I've received representation from, their views will be heard, and I promise you that. So, thank you very much for coming today. Thank you for listening to me.
We're reading that there's going to be a 30% upward in the population of Felixstowe,
Yeah.
You're planning for schools, you're planning for health, employment. Where are they going to work?
Yes.
The docks is moving towards automation,
Yeah.
so we can expect less jobs there. Martlesham, which is the other strategic employer in the area, that is downsizing, is moving people out to Birmingham. So surely key to this is knowing where your employment base is going to be, how they're going to get there, given the congestion on the A14 in Warrington.
Paul, did you want to mention something on that point? I mean, all I can say from a master plan point of view, in terms of what we're including or trying to include in the allocation, we are undertaking some research to understand what we need to provide in the master plan for Felixstowe to grow sustainably, what kind of spaces are required for local businesses. That's going to be at the forefront of our minds going forward with the master plan.
Can I just interrupt you there quickly? One of the things we were promised right back at Walton 4 when all of this was kicked off was that jobs would come first with infrastructure. If we have no jobs, we have no infrastructure, but we are getting the houses.
What I would say is, it's an entirely legitimate point, but jobs are being created not necessarily in the town itself, but around the town. So within the vicinity. The port. Well, yeah, and I think we've already covered that point in terms of infrastructure. But in terms of the jobs, I mean, Port of Felixstowe is a good example. It has a huge supply chain, even locally, not just regionally, and the Freeport initiative as part of that is creating new jobs. Now, they will start coming forward in the next 4 to 5 years directly on the Port of Felixstowe. So you're quite correct, infrastructure ideally does need to come ahead of jobs and housing stuff, but there is employment development taking place at the same time, even now, in terms of some of the key industries. And it's not just the port, for example. I mean, tourism continues to grow following the pandemic. That's almost back to where it was before, and that will continue to grow beyond that. And leisure as well is another key area where we're seeing growth as well. So it's a very legitimate point, and the ideal scenario is always to get your infrastructure in first, but as we know, we can't always work in an ideal world.
Gentleman here in the check chair.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because you talked
about the master plan. So what is the route, or the access route to the housing beyond Links Avenue up to Golf Road? How is that area going to be accessed for housing and other development?
So the current plan is that primary access will be off Candlett Road. There'll be no access off Golfer Road. There's another access point to the east of Ferry Road through another development that's currently in the planning system.
Question at the back from a woman.
I asked, can we access Links Avenue because there's a little bit of rumours going around that number 3's been bought by the council.
Yeah, that was purchased as a strategic purchase. Essentially, we're looking at access, but there's no decisions have yet been made.
No.
And in the meantime, it's going to be used for.
£500,000 on a property that's laid empty for the past year, when we have a housing crisis and people are desperate for affordable homes, and that property was purchased by from a council employee by the council of the strategic.
Just say a few words in response to that. I mean, what it wasn't bought from any Suffolk Council employee, that's incorrect. Okay. So absolutely.
Felixstowe Town.
Right. The site was purchased as a strategic purchase, as James has said. There may well be a need for more footpath access onto the site. We don't know at this stage. Quite happy to say that's what it's about, and it's being said in an open forum, so we're being very open about it. There is nothing, as you suggested, underhand of this. It was bought for a purpose. Do we need that purpose yet? We don't know. We won't know until the outcome of this sort of conversation. In the meantime, just to address the empty property issue. We have some work to do on that house, which we've struggled with. We are trying to get it back into use as soon as we can, so it won't sit empty. And my ambition is it won't sit empty much longer, but I've got to wait until the work's done. Thank you.